Welcome to the Human Longevity Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Peterson, and together we're about to explore the science and solutions that can allow you to live better, longer. Today, we're going to go fast to age slow. We're going to dive into all things intermittent fasting and really get a clear look at this entire conversation from the standpoint of understanding, is there one best way to fast that truly is the easiest, but it's also the most impactful to support greater health, performance, and longevity? And the answer is yes. So keep listening because we're going to break it down, and there truly is a clear and simple and implementable path. You're not going to have to do any crazy diets or any crazy workouts. This is going to fit your lifestyle, and you are going to love the information that I'm going to be able to share with you in today's show. So keep listening. But before we dive in, let's take just a moment to thank today's show sponsor, Integrative Peptides. Now, they are one of my favorite personal companies. I use them for myself. I use them on the clients that I support over at the Human Longevity Institute, because what Integrative Peptides has done has kind of taken the middleman out of accessing peptide therapy. No longer will you need a prescription or expensive compounding pharmacy or rolling the dice to see what might happen in the wild, wild west of internet research molecules that may or may not be what they say on the bottle. In fact, Integrative Peptides follows the FDA guidelines. They're under the good manufacturing practices, and they have all of their security and reports in place that their products are 99% and higher in purity ratings. So that means that you can trust what you're giving. What is on the label is in the bottle. And peptide therapy, well, it is precision longevity medicine at its finest, because peptides are these naturally occurring amino acid bonds in our body that form together in a very specific language to create exact instructions to carry out very intentional functions. And what this means is there's no side effects, they're safe, they're effective, they're natural, and you don't need to be on them forever. You use them, they get the job done. From healing and repair to regeneration, modulation of the immune system, cognitive function and performance, metabolic optimization, weight loss, and so much more. To get your 10% off coupon, head over to humanlongevityiinstitute.com/sponsors. Go ahead and click the link onto Integrative Peptides, and you'll be able to set up an account and you'll be able to start saving today. Now, keep listening, because I'm going to actually highlight one peptide in particular today and when and how it might be beneficial to support you on your intermittent fasting journey. All right, so let's get into the show. Go fast to age slow. Intermittent fasting is not a new conversation. You might be sitting here saying, but Melissa, I've heard this before. Maybe you have, but I think maybe you haven't, because I want to share what is seldom discussed in this lane. You see, when we began to first think about intermittent fasting, it came on the scene in 2008, really looking at the benefits and how it could help, especially in cancer patients. And could intermittent fasting be a tool that we can use in therapeutics environments and settings and interventions? And of course, what they found from that study was yes, when we do prolonged fasting, and that's a state without eating. When we go through a prolonged fasted state without consuming food, and we reduce the calories, and in that particular study, they did a pretty extreme calorie reduction by about 40%. What they found is there was incredible benefits to promoting what's called autophagy in the body that helps to gobble up senescent cells and aberrant cells that could become malignant or cancerous. So it's a really good strategy when we want to prevent and or help to treat cancer. That kind of kicked things off. But it really opened up the doorway to say, wait a minute, this is kind of extreme. There are benefits here. Could there be more benefits? And over the years, the science has really become so intricate. And in fact, today, there's more than 100 known and validated ways to use intermittent fasting. But let's today, during the show, take you to a common sense approach and take it to the brass tacks so that you can begin to implement some of these strategies if you choose to slow down the rate of biological aging in your own body and health starting today. Sound good? Okay, so here's the deal. Intermittent fasting has incredible longevity benefits, metabolic benefits, immune benefits. It is a tool that will help to stimulate autophagy, which is going to gobble up and bring down the inflammatory burden on the body. Now, remember, what you've been probably learning from some of our past episodes is one of the fundamental root expressions of biological aging is inflammation, which has also been called inflammaging. The more inflamed the body is for the longer, the faster things break down and go haywire. The less efficiently they work, the less optimally they repair, and we start to look and feel not so great. Okay, so we always want to know, how do I slow that down? How do I stop and reverse that process? Well, we always want to think about, how do we bring down the fires of inflammation? And fasting is a proven way to do that. Now, again, common sense. As humans, before we became modernized and civilized and so busy and have developed such a world of convenience, we didn't have 24/7 access to food, to light, to electricity, to refrigerators, meaning we had to live in a natural accordance with nature. We would hunt, we would gather, we would get up with the sun, we'd go to bed with the dark, and we didn't have as many chronic diseases, right? And so we went out, we did what we needed to, we came back, we rested, we repaired, we replenished for the next day. And there's a lot of intelligence in this very basic way that we as humans have evolved. And we can look to animals and we can see the same type of patterns. Why is this? Well, this phenomena is what's called this circadian rhythm. We have a 24-hour light-dark cycle. And you and I, every living creature, the cells in our body have clocks within them. And these clocks literally know how to ensure that everything happens on time, in time, every time, day in and day out, where you're at in space and time, how to understand what's happening in the outer world as it pertains to the inner world to make sure that things stay functioning rather optimally. It's a pretty intelligent system. And the main signal that trips all of this on and off is light and dark. Light truly is one of our most powerful communicators to creating health or rapidly leading to breakdown and disease. So when we want to optimize healing, health, performance, and longevity, the first thing we want to think about is, am I in alignment? Am I tuned into nature's natural rhythms, or am I way out of sync? And do I have lights on all the time? Am I in front of devices? Am I eating way into the night? Am I snacking all the time, drinking all the time? Do I have a lot of distress? Do I have a lot of constant inputs and overloads to my system? And I'm not sleeping well. I'm struggling to get weight off. I'm feeling tired more often than I am energized. It's hard for me to focus and concentrate. If you're saying yes to any of those, then the answer is, right now, you are probably out of alignment with this natural rhythm. And this is why circadian fasting, what I'm going to explain to you next, will be able to help you get your body back in sync really quickly, so you can begin to benefit metabolically, cognitively, hormonally, energetically, at the cellular level to enhance healing, health, and longevity. Okay? So circadian fasting is going back to how we were designed. It means rising with the sun, eating with the sun, going to bed with the dark, and not eating with the dark. Like, that's the most basic way I can say this. Now, depending on the time of year, right, these intervals at minimum are 12 hours. We could have 12 hours of light and 12 hours of darkness. And what we know in the research is we need at least 12 hours without eating, in a fasted, non-eating state, to really start to get these beautiful benefits of just bringing down inflammation, of renewal, of repair, of healing, and to work with our natural metabolic fat-burning cycles. Okay, great. If you think about it, true circadian fasting has found in the research that the most optimal benefits, so as they've broken down more than these 100 ways of how we can fast, a lot of the research is looking at, well, how long should we go? How many hours without food? How many hours with? Is it the type of food that we should be eating? Are there certain nutrients that are better than others? Does it matter the time of day, right? Does it matter the amount of days that we go without eating? And while there are different types of benefits to different forms of fasting, when it comes to the safest and most impactful way that you can get immediate benefit, it starts with circadian fasting, that we're going to eat during the light phase of the day only. So when it's dark, you don't eat. But it got even more specific. What we found in the research is that, okay, let's say there's 12 hours of light where you're going to get your most metabolically potent benefits is when you eat front-loaded in the first 8 hours of the day. Well, why is this? You see, there is a natural circadian process that unfolds throughout, like I said, all those cells in the body with these little circadian clocks inside that are timing different hormones, different releases of hormones and neurotransmitters and vasoconstriction and dilation, helping to literally bring our body online, wake us up, fuel us with energy, get us going into the day, and give us what we need to physically, mentally be able to perform throughout the day. And what we know is that these same hormones of cortisol and glucose, when we see norepinephrine and epinephrine, we see the blood pressure rising, the heart rate increasing, we see these processes unfolding, that as we go later into the day, as the sun begins to come down the other side, we start to see those levels naturally lower. Okay, this is a lot of innate intelligence speaking to us. Like if we just look at how the body's designed, there's a lot of energy at the first part of the day. Get up, go, do. And there's less energy as we go past that 8-hour mark, as we start to go later into the day, because we should naturally be starting to slow down, to go to rest, to connect, to turn things off, to connect with others. Okay, so now what we know from circadian fasting is, yes, we can eat just during the light phase. And if we eat only during the first 8 hours, we get the most metabolic benefits, the greatest fat burning benefits, the greatest immune benefits. And what the literature shows is that there's an increase in our thymic gland activity. Now, this is really interesting because as we chronologically age, our thymus gland naturally decreases in size and activity. So it's pretty amazing. Like a lot of longevity therapies all look to say, how do we stimulate thymic activity? And this is one of the areas that peptide therapy is really great at, for example. That's another conversation for another show that we'll dive into. But why this is so significant is that just from circadian fasting, eating the majority of our food in those earlier parts, the first 8 hours of the day, we boost our thymic function. We have an increased overall immunomodulation by upwards of 24%. Now, this is really pretty significant. So here's the next part of the research that is so fascinating. I really want you to know there's no crazy diets and no crazy workouts here that you have to do, because this is simply about looking not at what we're eating. The research is very clear. It wasn't about what, it was about when. So again, no crazy diets. You don't have to change your life. You get to just become more reattuned to the natural rhythms of nature. And you, our cells, are part of that same frequency and kind of light signaling that nature follows. We follow it too. So eat during the light, don't eat during the dark. Okay, that's step one. Step two, doesn't matter right now about what you eat. It matters about when you eat. All right, that's just to get good longevity benefits. And now, here's the next piece. If you have on any level struggled with weight, you've got already pre-existing conditions like metabolic conditions like prediabetes, diabetes, hormone imbalance of some degree, you're concerned about potential cognitive decline or Alzheimer's, perhaps you see it in your family, and you want to be really proactive, then this next part's for you. In the original research, they did significant caloric reduction. And while there were benefits, it was not sustainable long-term. And the longer we are in a significant caloric reduction, we actually move into malnourishment. And then there's another whole host of problems that unfold with that. So over the years of intermittent fasting research, the researchers said, well, can we just go with a little less? Like, does it have to be 40%? What if it were 30% caloric restriction? What if it were 20? Like, is there a sweet spot? And what the research has shown is that just by doing circadian fasting, just by doing truly any type of intermittent fasting with as little as just 12 hours that you're not eating, 12-hour window that you could be eating, that shortens the window when we eat for most people, because most people only go without eating 8 to maximum of 10 hours. They're eating all the way up to 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. They're waking up at 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. They're going right for their coffee and right for their breakfast, something, and out the door they go. So they have a very short window and they're not getting those fasting benefits. And they're staying in an overfed state. They're staying in a very pro-inflammatory state. And they're staying in they don't ever get to fully repair and rejuvenate. So again, we are rapidly increasing the rate of biological aging when we eat more than 12 hours out of the day, when we're eating 14 hours, 16 hours. Okay. So we want to go to eat fewer hours. And when we do that, we naturally tend to eat a little bit less, even without trying. You don't all of a sudden have to start counting macros and calories and the whole deal. You don't have to. You can if you'd like to, but you don't have to, is what the research shows us, because the fasting window of light hours versus eating when it's dark is already going to start to reduce some of the time you otherwise would have been snacking or eating. Okay, so that's really great. So if you want a little bit more specificity, what we know is that there has been an increase in caloric consumption since around 2013. And there was a big study done by the American Agricultural Society, and they wanted to look at kind of what's Americans consuming and how much and what different food groups and what types. And we went from, on average, consuming around 2,000 calories a day to really increasing upwards of over 3,400 to 3,600 calories a day, with the biggest increase being in seed oils. Now, what are seed oils? This is things like safflower, sunflower, canola oil. These are what are called omega-6 fatty acids, and they become very pro-inflammatory. So we need some, but we get way too many of them here in the US. And so they're not only are they higher in calories, but they oxidize. So think of this like rusting in the body, and they become very pro-inflammatory. And so they actually accelerate that pace of biological aging. They add weight onto the body. They interfere with immune function. It's a whole mess, right? So they said, okay, we noticed that we're eating a lot more of these seed oils. They're going to be in fried foods. They're going to be in processed foods. They're going to be in things that come through the drive-through, boxes, bags, cans, French fries, your favorite chicken nugget, chicken sandwich. Everybody kind of loves their fried chicken stuff. Chips, cookies, crackers, all of that has these seed oils in it. And you may be cooking at home with oils. You might be cooking on higher flames, which also oxidize and create these pro-inflammatory states. You might be eating a lot of nuts like almonds. Now, those also are very high in omega-6. And the more we consume this stuff, the more of an inflammatory burden we're placing on our body. So eat during the light, not during the dark. If you want to think at all about changing some of the things you're bringing in, keep it simple, no crazy diets. Just get curious about what you're currently eating. Notice how many foods already naturally have on the ingredient label sunflower, safflower, canola, some kind of oil that they are processed with. And just make a mental note to say, can I reduce the amount of this, the frequency of how often I might be eating or how much of this I am eating? Can I swap out pro-inflammatory oils for more stable oils like avocado oil or a coconut oil? If I'm using olive oil, can I make sure I'm cooking with it on medium heat? So these are just a few things, gang. I'm giving just a couple of guiding principles so you can layer and stack this stuff together. But here's the next few, and we're going to bring this all home for the home run. So you're getting a sense. Okay, great. Circadian fasting is a simple way to go. Eat with the light, don't eat with the dark. Simple. Now, if you do eat super late, you can just start by saying, okay, it feels like a big stretch to stop eating at 9 p.m. because I don't even get home until 8 p.m. So is there a way that I can can I leave work earlier? Can I get home earlier? Can I bring food with me? Can I make dinner lighter, right? So you're just going to start to kind of work in reverse and go, okay, if I'm eating 14 hours a day, could I eat 13 till I can get to 12? Okay, till I can get to 11 and then maybe 10. So that's step one. Step two, you're kind of noticing the things that maybe you are eating to say, well, hey, if I'm going to look to change anything, let me start with seed oils, because that seems to be a place that many of us unknowingly are getting a lot of inflammatory, disruptive type of molecules into the body. And the more disruption we have in the body, the more stress that's coming in. And here's why this all matters, because cortisol, glucose, and insulin, they keep the body in this overfed, overactive state, and they activate a pathway that accelerates biological aging called mTOR. Now, we need mTOR. It helps things to grow and repair. We just don't need it on all the time. And it will stay active and on when it is sensing glucose, insulin, and cortisol. That's going to come from the foods that we're eating, from the things that are stressing us out, that are pro-inflammatory physically, mentally, emotionally, chemically, environmentally. Okay. So all of the sudden, the more that we have glucose from foods, maybe you're eating drinking a lot of sodas, eating a lot of carbs, the more that you're eating the fried foods that are causing inflammation, that's a stress that's going to release more glucose into the system. What this starts to do is it starts to create an insulin resistance, which compounds to leptin resistance. Now, leptin is a really important hormone, just like insulin, and it's the one that says, "Hey, I'm satisfied. I am so satisfied. I don't have any cravings. I'm full. I feel great." Many of us have leptin resistance because we have insulin dysregulation by way of glucose and cortisol dysregulation. So when we can start to clean that up, just even by circadian fasting, then we start to feel better, think better, live better, be better. Then we can get more intentional and say, well, I'm still not losing any weight. I'm still feeling really tired. So you might want to go to the next level. So the question is, how do we start to help our body regulate this glucose and insulin and cortisol without any crazy things? Step one is exercise. What the research shows us is that anytime we are exercising, contracting our muscles, even going for a nice light walk after dinner, we have upwards of a 50-fold uptake in glucose, cleans it up out of the system, gobbles it up, uses it by the muscles. And the moment we start to better utilize glucose, we better stabilize insulin, we better regulate cortisol, we start to dampen that accelerated aging pathway of mTOR, and it's not on all the time. And we start to activate the longevity pathways, which are called AMPK, and we start to create greater efficiency in metabolic activity. And when the body's more efficient, you've got more energy, you're healing, you're repairing, you're performing better starting today. Now, the last piece to this is if you are moving your body, you're exercising, you're playing with fasting, you're starting to do it, or you have been doing it, and you're still having some challenges. You just can't quite do it every day. You still find yourself hungry. You still find yourself eating later at night. Your schedule's still a little crazy. Then that's one of the reasons that I've brought Integrative Peptides on today as our sponsor to feature one of my favorite products that they have that I've personally used on myself as well as with my clients, which is called Can't Wait. Now, the peptide is called DNF10, and this particular peptide works with regulating leptin and ghrelin. So when we can start to better signal and support, oh, I don't need to eat. I feel satiated. I don't crave foods. I don't need to overeat because I'm bored or because I think I'm craving something. I'm good. When we start from that end, we start to have better signaling. So now, by default, we're not eating as late, we're not eating as much, we're not dysregulating insulin as much. So we start to clean it up that way. So there's a couple of inroads is really what I'm wanting to let you know. But the benefits are clear. When we eat with the light and we rest with the dark, we get back into rhythm with our innate human rhythm. Things begin to just work more optimally without even trying, and you don't have to go crazy or extreme. You really can begin to more fully enjoy your life. Life is not meant to be deprivation. It is here for you. So begin to enjoy, play with these rhythms, play with the information. Remember, as you start to eat during the light and sleep during the dark, you can add on to that next level of move your body to help with that glucose and insulin and cortisol. You need a little extra help, go over to humanlongevityinstitute.com/sponsors. Click on Integrative Peptide, get that 10% savings, go over and find the product Can't Wait. And you can begin to use that. I'll tell you, literally within 2 days, I started to feel like I had a noticeable difference. I lost weight without even doing anything differently except taking that, because I really was more satisfied and I just wasn't eating as much. And I wasn't even trying. Like, I wasn't trying at all. It just was a very natural, normal, effortless process. And so that's what I love about peptides, especially. They are already natural signalers. They're working with your body, not forcing it to do something that's anything other than natural. So go take action. Remember, today was all about great information. And hopefully you have a new perspective that intermittent fasting isn't just the 16-8 or the 5-2 or the fasting mimicking or a 48-hour. There's a lot of great ways to use fasting, and especially in a very therapeutic way against really severe disease states. But when we're looking to begin to have longevity benefit, to have increased performance benefit, increased metabolic and immune benefit, to be more efficient with our energy and burn fat while retaining lean muscle, then circadian fasting is the safest and most effective place for you to begin. You'll start to feel better, you'll start to think better and move better and live better starting today. We just can't deny it. It's in our DNA. It syncs us up to how we were designed to not just survive, but more specifically to thrive. All right, friends, listen, information without implementation means nothing. So go take action, share your experiences with us over at humanlongevityinstitute.com or in the comments below. Would love to hear wherever you're listening to this podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share. Let others know we are building this platform together. And it's an honor to get to share all this information with you. So until next time, I'm Dr. Melissa Peterson. Thanks again for tuning in, and more great conversations on living better longer to come.